I was thinking there, Donnie, Brother Donnie, as you were singing, that I believe that, I want you guys to know something, that Jennifer did go to college too, just like I did. And she did not go to college to be a video photographer, but I think she did a pretty good job over the last 10 years. I want you guys to know there's a few times what you did not see in those videos were a bird slamming up against the window as they're trying to get in. And it's quite interesting, and there's a few times in which I thought, what is that crazy thing doing? In fact, if you go to the end of the church buildings, you guys go out, do this tonight, pay attention to the windows, they have bird wings all over them when they try to get into the church. So they thought, if nobody's going to be in there, we might as well try, but they couldn't get in. So tonight I want to talk about something every single one of us has faced in our life. That's temptation. All right? I mean, temptation, by the way, is not a sin. It just simply is temptation. Jesus Christ was tempted to sin, but he did not. And I want to tonight, this is actually a passage of scripture that I did share with you over the last, during our time together. I'm going to go more than just a couple minutes tonight on it, okay? And I want you to see tonight that when we have temptation that comes into our lives, when you have it, when I have it, when the church faces temptation, we have choices to make. And we can make a good choice, or we can make a bad choice. Because understand something, when temptation comes, that's the only two choices you get. Is to get a good choice or a bad choice, or the outcome of what might happen when you get into that temptation. So what I want to share with you tonight is actually what you can do in your life when these things come. So we're going to be in 1 Corinthians chapter 10, verse 14. I want you to hear what it says. It says, therefore, my beloved, flee from idolatry. I was watching and I was thinking about all this rioting that's going on. In fact, if you want to know the truth, the rioting has completely taken everybody's mind off. That the protest started out peacefully. And it may have, I don't know, I didn't watch the news. I'm not saying it didn't. But it sure didn't end that way. And it's interesting because when they made the statement that it started out that way, that means some people were tempted to do things that they would not normally do. And ended up causing thousands and thousands upon thousands, if not more, dollars in damage to stuff that didn't belong to them. And the saddest part is nobody seems to care. And it's interesting that we have this temptation that comes into our lives. Even as adults, they come in, don't they, adults? So they go like this, yeah, they come in, right? And we have a choice to make with them. We have a choice of how we're going to respond to them. And I want to share with you tonight some things about it. How many of you remember the bully when you were growing up? How many of you were the bully when you were growing up? Nobody? Okay, I'm just asking. Okay, usually there was always this bully at school. And this bully, he one time I was on, how many of you guys remember the merry-go-rounds, right? The merry-go-rounds? I mean, the merry-go-rounds were great. We got on the merry-go-round, I would have been under 4th grade because we had two school playgrounds, and the kids under 4th grade had to be in one, and the older kids were in the other. And I was in the one where it's for 4th grade and under. And I remember I was on that merry-go-round, and we're swinging around, and wham, something hit me right in the head. It was Delbert Boss. He threw a rock and hit me in the head. I don't remember a lot of people's names from when I was a kid, but I remember his name because he hit me in the head with a rock for no reason. You know? He was just a bully. Okay? And they say that a bully can generally be stopped by doing what? Anybody? By standing up to him. Okay? So one of the things that I want you to see tonight about Satan is he wants to be a bully in your life. He wants you to believe every lie that he says. He wants you to do everything that he tells you to do. And you know what? Here's the thing. Please write this down. He doesn't care what it costs you. He does not care what it costs you to give in to temptation. He doesn't care. So what we as Christians can do, the first thing I'm going to advocate this, is fight. Okay? No, not one another. Not with fists or with boards or baseball bats or whatever people use. But to stand up and battle that temptation by making sure that we do so in a way by which Satan will be put to the side. And I want to share with you what Paul had to write to the church at Ephesus. And I want to share this with you because Paul said this to the church at Ephesus in Ephesians chapter 6, verse 11. I didn't give Wayne all these numbers, so if they get up there a little bit later, or if I'm a little bit behind one day or the other, they'll get up there, okay? So again, it's Ephesians chapter 6, verse 1, and here, verse 11. And this is what it says to you and to me about getting away from these things. Put on the whole armor of God, that you may be able to stand against the wiles of the devil. Have you ever said to yourself, I got this. I got this. I don't need any help. And reality is that you didn't have it and you needed help. Right? Be that spiritually, physically, whatever it might be. And you see, one of the things that we have to understand, remember, Satan doesn't care what it costs you and I to give it in temptation. He does not care. He's not our friend. And here we see that Paul makes the statement that says, you got to put on the whole army, the whole armor of God. You can continue to look there in Ephesians chapter 6 and you can see the armor of God. But I want us to see and understand that we have to make sure that we are not being passive when temptation comes in and say, I can overcome it. Because usually when we make that statement, usually when we say, I can overcome this sin in my own power, we give into it. And then we say to ourselves, what was I thinking? What was I doing? And by the way, I've had people say over the years before, how do I know whether or not I'm a Christian? Listen, when you give in to sin, temptation, and you sin, and you feel guilty about it, that's God reminding you of who He is. It's God reminding you that He is your Lord and Savior. It's proof. It's proof of who God is and who He is in your life. So we see this here tonight. We need to make sure, and by the way here, the note here that is written in my Bible is the word battle. Okay? Battle. So in other words, a battle sometimes can last a long time. A battle can be days, weeks, or a battle can be a very, very short period of time. You know, we need to remember as Christians that Jesus Christ died for us. He's already won the war, but the battles still flare up now and then. But He's already won the war. It's over. And I want to encourage everyone, those of you that are here tonight, those of you that might be listening, don't give in to that temptation simply because, oh, it's not a big deal. Because it is a big deal. It is a big deal because that's exactly what Satan wants you and I to believe, that it's no big deal. And I want us to remember, I want you to look at our society today. Guys, there's a bunch of, it's not a big deal. It's no big deal. I don't know why everybody gets so worked up about something. Because you see, when I was raised and growing up, right was right and wrong was wrong. We never blurred the lines. Well, you could blur the lines, but you had to pay a price for it. You see, as Christians, we need to remember Jesus Christ died for us. He never took away Satan's ability to tempt us, though. He never took it away. He did not do so, but He did say to us, listen, be willing to fight with my power, not on our own power. Our own power is weak, but with God's power, we can do mighty things, and we can do anything. And I want to encourage every one of us here tonight, every single one of us, you know what? Don't give in to that temptation. Battle it. Don't sit back and go, it's no big deal. It's no big deal. You know, we can get mad at decisions that people make. Now, I'll be honest with you, I kept thinking, boy, when is our mayor going to let us go back to church? Some of you guys had that thought. Okay? I kept thinking, what is he thinking? And sometimes I said to myself, he's not. I'm not going to lie to you. Sometimes he's not thinking at all. He doesn't care about the church at all. Guys, I'm going to tell you what, there's a lot of things our government did over the last 10 weeks to show they really don't care about the church. So we've got to make sure we care about one another and that we care and love God enough not to give in to temptation. Okay, you could went to the liquor store over the last 10 weeks, but you couldn't go to church. Now that makes a lot of sense, doesn't it? You could have went and had an abortion over the last 10 weeks, but you couldn't go to church. Then they had the nerve to say, give us taxpayer dollars to do it. Guys, that's a problem. People giving in to temptation, they give in and they don't think it's a big deal any longer, but it's a huge deal. And it starts with you and with me in our churches, not giving in. So tonight I want to encourage you, fight. Don't give in. to that temptation. The second one I want us to see here is to follow. No, not to follow Satan, but to follow Jesus Christ. All right? I want you to take your Bibles, and we're going to go back to James. Okay? Wayne will probably get up there quicker than I am. It's going to be James chapter 4, verse 7. I want you to hear what James has to say to us about this whole idea of making sure that we follow after Jesus Christ. He says this in James chapter 4, verse 7. He says, therefore, submit to God. Submit to God. Resist the devil, and he will flee from you. I want you to underline that word flee, will flee, that phrase, will flee. In other words, what James is saying to us, what James is saying to the church, he has no choice but to leave you alone. Okay? No choice. But here's the key to it. Here's what we have to understand, is that we have to do our part with it. Okay, we have to make sure that we, as God's people, that we do something. That word is submit. Okay? Those of you who watched our videos, I showed you my puppy, my golden retriever puppy. If you want to go play with her, just prepare. She weighs over 50 pounds now. You're more than welcome to play with her. But I want to know something, is that when she gets into trouble, I look at her and I say, in your crate. She doesn't like the idea of it. And sometimes I have to tell her twice, but you know what she does? She gets in her crate. You see, why does she? Because she submitted to my authority. Now, as Christians, whose authority should we submit to? God's. With no questions, right? Brother Doctor, with no question, right? But yet so many times, what do? Boy, we just want to question why God wants us to do something or not to do something. It's the first thing that we want to do. God, I don't want to do that. Brother Rick, I'm not doing that. I don't care if God wants me to or not. I'm just not going to do it, right? How many times have people done that in our lives? You see, I want to encourage every one of us, make sure that we resist the devil and submit to God. How many of you can say that you're a perfect parent? Anybody at all? Anybody? There's just two people, but three people in the auditorium. They would be sarcastic, or we'd have counseling after church tonight. But the reality is we're not, right? I mean, we want to be. I mean, we really do. We try, we want to be. But our kids are always a reflection of us. And sometimes it's scary. Brother Carlos, sometimes that's scary. Because, man, they have a tendency to pick up that negative part, and you say, am I that way? And then they pick up that good part, and you're thinking, yes, I got something right. When I read my Bible, I want you to, and I hope when you read your Bible, one of the things that we have in the Scriptures is examples. Paul even went as far as he told those listening to him, he said, follow the examples that I've given you. Because my examples are those that I can give you because I follow after Jesus Christ. You see, as Christians, we need to follow the examples set before us by Jesus Christ. You never know. I want you to do this sometime. Pay attention when you're reading the Gospels. Pay attention. Everybody comes back with okay? Fight, spiritually fight, right? Spiritually fight. Number two, to make sure. Let's stay right here, and we're going to read our verse again from chapter 10, verse 14 of 1 Corinthians. Listen to it one more time what it says. It says, therefore, my beloved, flee. Okay? So the next one that I want you to see here is that you and I need to flee from the presence and try to get away from the presence of temptation. If you know what your weaknesses are, who else knows what your weaknesses are? Satan does. And God does too. But they treat them differently. They treat them completely differently. God treats your weaknesses and my weaknesses that he says, I will come and I'll be your strength. Satan treats them as this, I'm going to come and I'm going to exploit, and I'm going to make sure that you fall even further into that weakness that you have. So they know the opposite. They're the opposite of one another, but yet they know exactly what it is that they're supposed to do. Remember what it says here. He says that to us. But Brother Wayne, go back if you would and rest in Genesis chapter 39. Okay, let's see one more thing here. I want you to see what happens here when there was a young man, a young boy who was in Egypt. And when temptation came his way, what he did, and we have studied him before, but again, it's Genesis chapter 39, verse 19. And I want you to hear what it is, verse 12. And I want you to hear what it is that took place. And it says this. It says this is Joseph, and Joseph, Potiphar's wife, she really liked him, and he knew that she was married, and he was not interested in committing any wrong against her, but she was not interested in taking that for an answer. And it says this, that she caught him by his garment, saying, "Lie with me." But he left his garment in her hand and fled and ran outside. You see, he ran away from that temptation that is there. You see, last night when people were downtown protesting, if they really wanted to get away from it, do you know what they could have done? Fled. Don't you think for a moment those people were innocent in what they were doing? They knew exactly what they were doing. Satan knows exactly what you were doing, knows exactly what I'm doing. He knows exactly what it is, but also God does too. But God gives you and I an out. God gives you and I the ability to flee from those circumstances. God gives you and I the ability to get away from those and not give in. Remember, giving in to sin is giving in to temptation is what sin is. Not being tempted. Temptation will come. Jesus Christ was tempted to make bread, remember? He was tempted to fall off the temple. He was tempted to do things that Satan was hoping he would do so that he then in turn would be able to start to worship Satan. But Jesus Christ didn't give in. And I want you to know something. You and I don't have to give in to the temptation of sin. We don't have to give into it. How many of you guys know that sin, that temptation is very appealing? Like this. Yes, it is. It's very appealing. You want to know why it's very appealing? Because if it wasn't, it wouldn't work. All right? Wasn't because Jesus. But you see, the fact of the matter is, Satan is a liar, and he gets us to believe it. And we need to make sure we don't do so. So flee from those sins. Flee from the presence that is there. Two more things I want to share with you. One of the most tragic things about COVID-19 is that it has caused people to be isolated from one another. Okay? Some might say, well, that's not nearly as tragic. I think, no, I understand that. The death that took place was unbelievable. The damage that has taken place in people economically, psychologically. Some of it may never, ever come back. I understand that. But guys, I want you to know something socially. It's important that we make sure we have fellowship with believers. Satan's going to tell you don't have to go to church. In fact, you know what? You don't even need to be part of those fellowships the church put on. They're just trying to get something out of you. See, he doesn't want us to fellowship with him. Actually, 11 weeks ago today was the last time we were in church. You got it. I didn't stay home every day. Did you guys stay home every day? I know some people did, and that's great, but I did not. Okay? And why is that? Well, part of this is that rebel party says, I'm not going to do this. Right? And part of it was, I can't stand it. How do you got to that one? I can't stand it. Right? I just can't stand it. And you see, because God made us to be around other people. Some people may say, I don't care if I'm around other people. Yes, you do. What you really mean is, I don't have to have as much fellowship as other people do, but you still need to be around people. You see, He made us to have fellowship with one another. What happens when we isolate from one another? Temptation really worked hard at it. See, Satan really tries to put doubt into your mind, doubt into mine. And he works really hard to get us to do things that we would not want to do. But I want you to know what the church is supposed to be. The church is supposed to be a safe place. How many of you guys have seen that on the fire departments? I believe it's on the police stations as well. Okay? A safe place. Guys, I want to encourage something that sometimes you know what the church isn't as safe as it needs to be. Okay? The church needs to be a safe place for people to come to. It needs to be a safe place by which we can fellowship with one another. It needs to be a safe place in which we can truly spend time with one another. I want you to take your Bibles and stay right here in 1 Corinthians and just go back to chapter 15. Chapter 15, verse 33. All right, I want you to hear what it is that Paul told the church at Corinth. The church at Corinth was quite an interesting church, and I promise you we'll get back to that eventually on Wednesday night. But again, it's 1 Corinthians chapter 15, verse 33, and Paul said this. He says, do not be deceived. Evil company corrupts good habits. How many of you have habits in your life you're not proud of? You don't have to raise your hand. Right? How many have a habit in your life that's a good one? Raise your hand. You know what a good habit is, guys? Going to church. And if you don't think that's a habit, stop going for a while. Because that's one of my fears. The last 11 weeks of not being in church, people staying home. And you see, one of the things that we need to remember is that He wants us to be in church. And if you notice there in that passage of scriptures, don't be deceived. Who's the deceiver? Satan. What does he want to do to us? Deceive us, lie to us, tempt us. He wants us to be in church. He wants us to do so. He wants us to make sure that we are there. And He wants to make sure the church is not a safe place to be. That's what He wants to do. He's really good at His job. In fact, there are very few experts in the world. Did you guys know that? How many of you guys during the last 10 weeks or so listened to some of the briefings the doctors gave about COVID-19? Okay? There for a while it was pretty good, right? You're trying to get some information, you know what's happening. And then you know what happened? The experts started contradicting each other. I don't know if you guys caught that or not, but they started contradicting one another. Yes, we're going to have to do church a little bit differently for a while. But I want you to know something. Eventually, we have to get back to what? Trusting God with our faith. We eventually have to. Eventually, we have no choice. You see, we need to remember this, that He wants us to fellowship with one another. And finally, the last thing I want to share with you about this, about temptation, when it comes into your life, how can you avoid it? How can I avoid it? Is by simply eating it. We're Baptists, so we're good at that. We're good to go, right? Eating, feeding on what? The Word of God. Feeding on it. Let's go back for just a moment, if you would, please. And go back to Psalm 119. Okay? Psalm 119, verse 11. I want you to hear what it is that is said to us, to you and to me, about this whole idea of what is taking place. In fact, Wayne, I want us to go back to verse 9, okay, if you would, of Psalm 119. I want you to hear what it says here in Psalm 119. We're starting verses 9. We're doing verses 9, 10, and 11. I want you to hear what it says. Remember the word feeding, okay? It says this: how can a young man cleanse his way? By taking heed thereto according to thy word. With thy whole heart have I sought thee. Oh, let me not wander from your commandments. Your word have I hid in my heart, that I might not sin against you. Some of the neatest, awesomest passages of Scripture ever written. The whole Bible is pretty impressive, wouldn't you agree? But you see, he wants us to understand something here as we have this written to us, as the psalm is written to you and to me. He says, how can we do it? So in other words, one of the things that I want to point out to you here is that it is possible to accomplish these things. It's possible. Listen to what he says. How can it happen? So he's asking a question. And by the way, every time in the scriptures a question is asked, an answer is given. Right? Just remember that an answer is given. So a question is here, and he says this. Here's what you got to do. Listen to the words I'm speaking to you, is what it says. By taking heed, paying attention to the words that I've spoken to you. How many of us can honestly say we pay attention to every single word that when the Bible speaks to us? I would hope that we do, and I hope that we do that more than anything else, but there's times in which we don't. There's times in which maybe we get into a bigger hurry, and all of a sudden we think, hey, I'm going to move on. So in your life and in my life, let's take heed. He says, by the way, here's this another part of this to put in there. He says, with my whole heart. With my whole heart have I sought you. So tonight I want to close right there. I want to encourage every one of us. You know what? Temptation is going to come. In fact, temptation is probably going to hit you right in the face as soon as you walk out that door tonight. And if it does, there's a way around it. Not giving in, but trusting God. And I hope you all can say that we'll do that. Brother Donnie, would you come?